What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. The offseason is beginning, so I'm going to spend about a month just sort of recapping the 2020-2021 college football season, and today I'm giving you my final top 25 poll. This is just my personal opinion of the 25 teams that I feel like should be in this list. You may notice that they are the same teams that are in the AP poll. That's just what I feel like the 25 teams or the 25 most deserving teams are, looking at how they played throughout the entire season. I do have a couple of things switched around though, but let's go ahead and get right on in. We're going to start at 25 and work our way up. So at number 25, I have Buffalo. They finished the season 6-1. Of course, Jared Patterson ran absolutely out of his mind this season. Buffalo was a great team, competed in the MAC. Of course, lost the MAC championship game to a team you're going to see later in this list. But Buffalo was a great team to watch this year. 24, I have San Jose State. What a story. San Jose State would definitely be higher in this poll if they would have won their bowl game against the same team that beat Buffalo this year, which is why the team that beat both of them is quite high, right? But San Jose State, what a story. I mean, this team was a lot of fun to watch. They were a lot of fun to watch. Just in practice, their coach was so fired up. I love the way that the coach coached this team. I mean, this team, what an absolutely amazing season they had. Hopefully, San Jose State can continue this little run of success here into next season, but we will just have to wait and see. Got a long way to go before that kicks off. 23, I have USC. Of course, Pac-12 champions. There's going to be Pac-12's runner-up to the Pac-12 champion, Oregon, who is not on this list. But USC, of course, with that only loss being in the Pac-12 championship game, does deserve to be here at number 23. They did not play in a bowl game because they had opted out, but they looked like one of the better teams all season. There were spurts that USC kind of looked like maybe they weren't able to compete, like they were losing, or excuse me, I should say they were beating teams that they should beat, yes, but not necessarily by as much as they should be beating them. But USC is still a very solid team, in my opinion, at number 23. 22, I have Miami. This team, I think, made a huge step up from where they had been in previous years. Derek King came in, put on a show for Miami fans, and Miami was able to finally figure out this thing called offense, and they were great at it. One of the better offenses in the ACC. They did have a couple disappointing losses in there. Of course, the Clemson, losing to North Carolina hurts as well, but Miami played great throughout this entire season. That's why they're at 22. And at 21 is Oklahoma State. They also finished 8-3, just like Miami. These two teams actually played in the bowl game, and I do believe Oklahoma State won that game. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Oklahoma State did win that game. I do know that. Sorry, brain got a little scrambled. But Oklahoma State, again, another solid team this year. Chuba Hubbard did not run as well as people thought he would, but Spencer Sanders was terrific, as was Tylan Wallace this year. And I think that defense took a little bit of a step up. This team should be back in contention for the Big 12 next year. Again, we'll have to wait and see. But there's 25 through 21. On to number 20. And here is the team that beat both San Jose State and Buffalo. It is Ball State. After dropping their first game of the season, they went and they won 7 straight. This team just played absolutely lights out. This was one of the better stories, and I think one of the bigger surprises this year in college football. I don't think anyone expected any team in the MAC, maybe besides Buffalo, to be decent, and Ball State came out and proved everybody wrong. They played some really, really good football down the stretch. So Ball State is at number 20. Number 19 are the Texas Longhorns. After winning their bowl game, they went to 7-3. Is Texas back? I don't think so quite yet. Texas is going to have to fill in a lot of key pieces this offseason. But looking at what they did in 2020, 2021, it was solid. There are a couple bad losses in there that Texas had, a couple close losses as well. But I think overall Texas played pretty well. They finished off the season for me at number 19. Number 18 is Liberty. I was really impressed with this team last year. And then this year, I thought they would take kind of a step down. I thought it was a one-off season. Turns out Liberty can only improve, and that's what I think they did. Of course, that one loss to NC State, a heartbreaker of a loss, but I mean, every team loses the game somehow, right? More than likely. But Liberty, that was their loss. But when you look at who they beat, they went out and they beat some really good teams. They beat Virginia Tech, who I thought was solid. The notable win that stands out is Coastal Carolina in their bowl game. Liberty played fantastic. This was a team that I think was struggling through a little bit, of course, with the absence of their coach for a couple games. But the Flames really found a way to get it done this season. They're at number 18. Number 17 was North Carolina. And this North Carolina team, not the expectation. They didn't really perform up to my expectations. But personally, I think this team was really good this year. They had a hard-fought game against Texas A&M in that last game of the season. I thought North Carolina played well in that game, just couldn't close it out. They had some great playmakers. Sam Howell, I don't know necessarily that he improved on what he did as a freshman, but he did keep that going. A lot of great playmakers on both sides of the ball this season for North Carolina. This was a fun team to watch, especially when they can get their offense going. They are just dynamic. I'm very interested to see what North Carolina and Mac Brown do next year, if they can keep it going or if they're going to be able to take it a step up like we all think that they can. Number 16 is Louisiana, and I don't feel like this team gets enough credit. Finishing the season 10-1, they played some fantastic teams. They played an Iowa State team that I think was really good this season, and they beat them. Granted, first week of the season, they played Coastal Carolina really close. They played a lot of great teams this season, and I think Louisiana gets underrated. Elijah Mitchell is one of my favorite players to watch in the country. He showed out this year at that running back position. Louisiana just played great on both sides of the ball. I'm going to give this team the credit they deserve. Maybe they should be higher than 16, but to me, the 15 teams I have ahead of them are just better, in my opinion. Speaking of which, at number 15, you see Iowa there, and Iowa was a team that I didn't really have a lot of expectations for coming into the season. I thought Iowa was going to take a step back, especially with the development of Spencer Petras, losing playmakers. I just thought that Iowa was going to take a step back, and after dropping their first two games of the season, it seemed like that was what was going to happen, but Iowa didn't really even take a step back. They stayed about right where they were. They played some really good football down the stretch. Spencer Petras looks to have a bright future there at Iowa. And this team, I think, can make some noise in the Big Ten next year. Going to be returning a lot of pieces. They're going to lose a couple of big pieces. We'll talk about that in the coming months. But Iowa, a team that really, to me, impressed me. They really did impress me this year. They're going to sit at number 15. Just ahead of them is another Big Ten team. It's Indiana, and this team would be higher because I really liked watching this team if they would have showed up and played better against Ole Miss. Now, I don't think Ole Miss is a bad team by any stretch, but I thought Indiana was too good to lose that game. Of course, losing Michael Penix hurts. They had to rely on Jack Tuttle. But speaking of which, Michael Penix had an amazing season. And how about the breakout wide receiver, Ty Freifogel? I knew the kid had potential, but I didn't expect that to happen. Of course, Watt Fillier still played great, as did Peyton Hendershot. And Stevie Scott also broke out as a great running back. But I think what really emerged on this Indiana team was, yes, Michael Penix, but also that defense. I thought that defense played tremendously well the entire way throughout the season. I thought the defense was severely underrated throughout the entire season. And to me, Indiana, if they could have played more games, now I know with COVID and everything, but that's a debate for another time. If Indiana could have maybe squeaked out one more win, maybe if they even would have beaten Ole Miss, this is the top 10 team. I really do believe that. They're going to sit here at number 14 just because, again, of that loss. But I think it was an extremely talented team this season, as was Northwestern. And Northwestern also was a Big Ten team that surprised me. They set at 13, finished 7-2 in Big Ten runner-ups. They gave Ohio State all they could handle in that Big Ten championship game. Now Northwestern, was a team that I didn't even really expect to be in this position. I didn't expect them to be that good. Again, going 3-9 the year prior, I thought Northwestern may make a little bit of an improvement. But as the offseason went on, I slowly figured out that I am underrating this Northwestern team, especially with Peyton Ramsey at quarterback, the transfer from Indiana. And they played well this season, but I think what held them back was their offense. If their offense was maybe just a little bit better, they had one of the better defenses in the nation. If their offense could have been better this season, they maybe could have been a better team, might have even been able to beat Ohio State in that Big Ten championship game, but they're going to sit at number 13. And I went back and forth on whether or not to put Northwestern at number 12, but I decided to put Florida at number 12. I think at the end of the day, Florida could be able to beat Northwestern pretty handedly if they tried. But that was the problem against Oklahoma, right? Is that they didn't. And that's why they're sitting here at number 12. Now, I know they had their top 4 receivers out and everything, but it didn't look like a good effort at all from Florida in that game. Now, again, like Florida is one of the most talented teams in the country when they're playing at their best, but those 4 losses, again, couple of them were to some pretty good teams. Of course, you lose to Texas A&M. You also lose to Alabama in the championship game. That loss to LSU, though, is inexcusable. And that loss to Oklahoma, maybe not inexcusable, but they could have put forth a better effort in that game. They are the highest ranked team with, I believe, 4 losses in this poll. I, in fact, know for a fact they are, but Florida losing a lot of pieces to the draft. But I do feel like Florida is going to be able to get back to this level next season. We're just going to have to wait and see. I think just not an overall good performance from Florida down the stretch. And by down the stretch, I mean in that Cotton Bowl game. That's why they're at number 12. Ahead of them is Coastal Carolina, the feel-good story of the season. Again, I'll do my surprising and disappointing teams in the coming week. I'll get those out sometime in the next week, and then we'll do some fun videos recapping, but I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. Coastal Carolina was a team that was just expected to be average, right? They weren't expected to do terribly great. They weren't expected to do awful either. Supposed to be middle of the pack, you know? Nobody was expected to compete with App State or Louisiana there at the top of the Sun Belt, but they did just that. Coastal Carolina really impressed me this season. I think really impressed everybody this season. This team should be back next year. They're returning a lot of pieces. I love CJ Marable back there as well. Sunbelt has a lot of great running backs that no one ever talks about because it's the Sunbelt. I love CJ Marable. What he did for this team this year was great, but also what the quarterback did. His name is escaping me as of this moment, but Coastal Carolina, what a team that was put together this season. Let's hope that they can be back next season because this is a fun team to watch. Getting into the top 10, at number 10, I have BYU sitting at 11-1, their lone loss to Coastal Carolina. Now, if you think, well, why isn't Coastal Carolina higher? Because I feel like BYU, if they were able to play again, I feel like BYU might be able to beat Coastal Carolina. I don't know. I went back and forth on that. Comment who you think should be that 10th position, whether that be Coastal Carolina or BYU. And I myself went back and forth on it. I ended up going with BYU because I feel like they're the more talented team. I know they didn't play the best of competition this year, but blowing off the brakes against UCF in that bowl game, just unreal from BYU. Zach Wilson emerged as a top quarterback, could be the 2nd overall pick in the NFL draft. Mock draft coming later this offseason. Nice plug, Nate. But BYU is an extremely talented team, and if they can return a lot of pieces, they should be good to go for a nice solid run next year as well. Number 9, I have Cincinnati. This team, I don't want to say they were a surprise, but just the dominance that Cincinnati performed with was unreal to a lot of people. They are going to be returning Desmond Ridder, which is good news if you are a Bearcats fan. They're going to lose a couple pieces here and there, but Cincinnati was a team this year that really showed out, and I think even emerged. If it had not been for COVID implications and whatnot, Cincinnati could be higher on this list, and maybe even in the top 5. But Cincinnati, a very, very good team. As a guy from Ohio, I'm hoping Cincinnati can keep their momentum into next year. I just love watching this team play. When they played Ohio State a couple years ago, I just knew that this team under Luke Fickell was going to do great things. They were already a solid team that year. They emerged out this year as the top team in the American Athletic. We'll see if they can do it again next year. But Cincinnati at number 9. Number 8 is Iowa State. They finished with a 9-3 record. The Cyclones, in my opinion, one of the better teams in the Big 12 and one of the better teams in the nation. Those 3 losses, one to, of course, Louisiana, one to Oklahoma. The other, I believe, escaped me. I believe it was TCU, right? Right. I believe it was TCU. But Iowa State, what a team. And how they have improved under Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell is doing something great at this Iowa State program, just climbing. Iowa State, the offense wasn't quite where it needed to be, at least with the Brock Purdy and receiving side of things. But Breece Hall, like I predicted, was the top running back in the nation this year in terms of rushing yards. And Iowa State's defense improved tremendously. This is a team that's going to be back next year. They are a lot of fun to watch. They're at number 8. Number 7 is Georgia. And after beating Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl, the comeback win, I feel like Cincinnati maybe could have been flipped with Iowa State, but Georgia, when you're talking about them, this is, again, just a solid team. They're going to have to fill in a couple pieces this offseason, but as of this season, they had their moments where they didn't look the best, but their 2 losses to Alabama and Florida, that doesn't look so bad, especially considering that was 1 and 2 in the SEC conference this year. Georgia was a solid team this year. They were also quite a bit of fun to watch. The only thing that plagued Georgia was that quarterback position. And with Jamie Newman opting out, if they can just figure that out in the offseason, it should be good to go. Always a good defensive team. They're at number 7. Number 6 is Oklahoma after they beat the brakes off of Florida and won a thriller in the Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma with a 9-2 record sitting here at number 6. Spencer Rattler didn't play well at the start of the season at all. This Oklahoma team, period, didn't play well at the start of the season. But Oklahoma found their stride. Spencer Rattler put up some great numbers, and this offense got going. This defense played pretty solid as well down the stretch. Now, between them and Iowa State, who's the better team? I would tell you Oklahoma, but they were 1-1 against each other this season. But Oklahoma has a bright future, expected to compete for the college football playoff spot next year. This season, to me, kind of a disappointment for Oklahoma, especially with those early losses. But hey, if you're Oklahoma, you can get back on track next year. Moving into the top 5, number 5 is Notre Dame at 10-2 after that blowout loss to Clemson and the blowout loss to Alabama. You almost feel like this team left more in the basket, right? This team looked great the entire season, and then when it really mattered, they fell off. So what's the problem with Notre Dame? I don't know. Ian Book had a career season. This is a great showing from Notre Dame. Hey, they made it to their second ever college football playoff appearance. This team is pretty good. They're going to have to replace a lot of pieces in the offseason like they did last offseason, especially possibly that quarterback position with Ian Book possibly being gone. But again, with eligibility not being a thing, don't know. Notre Dame played pretty solidly this year, except for down the stretch. But I got to put them at number 5 because of the way that they played in the regular season. Number 4 is Texas A&M. Now, if you're going to just have the argument of between Texas A&M and Notre Dame, pick them. They're quite even. Texas A&M showed that they belonged in the playoff with a win against North Carolina in that final game. Of course, an upset win over Florida. Got the brakes beat off them by Alabama, but who didn't, right? Alabama was just a dominant team this year, but Texas A&M was also a dominant team, and I think a pleasant surprise. I underrated Texas A&M. I didn't think they were going to do terribly good, but Kellen Mond emerged as a great quarterback in Texas A&M. a very, very good team this year. Number 3 is Clemson. This Clemson team looked great all year long, as they have in years past. But when it came to the playoff, they were just met with a brick wall. And the number 2 team that I have on this list, Ohio State. Now, there are people saying, well, maybe Clemson's still better than Ohio State. I really don't know about that one. You can call me biased all you want, but I have Clemson played well this season, and they have a fantastic team. Don't get me wrong. Clemson will be back next season. DJ Uiagalelei, the game he played against Notre Dame was insane, with Trevor Lawrence being gone, Travis Etienne being gone, Justin Ross maybe coming back, but maybe might be gone. Don't know about him quite yet. Got a lot of young pieces. This Clemson team was a lot of fun to watch. When it came to the playoff, they came up short, but still a great team. And as mentioned, number 2 is Ohio State. I truly feel like Ohio State, not necessarily all the way throughout the season, was the second best team in the nation. Clearly, right? They didn't play up to their standards in the regular season. It was a disappointing season for Justin Fields, but towards the end, they got it together. Big Ten championship game was a little shaky, but Trey Sermon put the team on his back in that game against Clemson, which is what they had just, in my opinion, I know their goal every year is to win a national championship. I had a lot of comments about that on my fan reaction video. Of course, that's their goal. But when you have so much motivation to beat a team like Clemson, and after you get rid of all that, there's not going to be much left in the tank. That's just the psychological game of sports. So for Ohio State, I thought it was a great season. Disappointing individual season for Justin Fields as an Ohio State fan, but a great overall team effort. Going to have to fill in some pieces, but a surprise in Chris Olave is coming back. And then with Trey Sermon off to the draft, we're still going to get Garrett Wilson back. Excuse me, we as in Ohio State fan speaking. Garrett Wilson's coming back. Master Teague's coming back. Got to fill in that quarterback position. Some key defensive players leaving, but Ohio State had a good season. But again, nobody was going to get past Alabama this year. Did you watch them play at all? I'm sure you have. No, you watched highlights. And Devontae Smith is an animal. Devontae Smith, what a player he is. Nobody was stopping Alabama in their way to a national championship. With the players that they lost, Tua Tagovailoa, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, all those guys, some defensive players as well, gone to the draft. I know I didn't talk about it a lot in my fan reaction, but with Alabama, they had guys come back surprisingly as well. Waddle's going to come back anyway, but Devontae Smith coming back, Najee Harris coming back, Mac Jones coming back, some defensive. Like, they didn't have to come back. They could have gone to the draft. They chose to come back with the idea of, all right, let's go. That was a disappointing 2019-2020 season. Let's go win a natty the next year. And that's exactly what they did. Nobody was stopping this Bama team, and Nick Saban is the greatest coach to ever do it. That is going to wrap up my top 25 poll. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you are brand new to the channel, or you just enjoy my content. We are very close to 100 subscribers after my video just exploded over the national championship Ohio State fan reaction review, which is still crazy to me. That's still going up, which is absolutely insane. So thank you guys for clicking on that. Share this video with everyone you know as well. I'm trying to grow the channel as big as possible. It'd mean a lot if you could share the video with people you know who love college football as much as you and me. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys later this week with surprising and disappointing teams from last season. Goodbye.